Hello guys, welcome to Ramtal Solutions. In today's video, we are giving you the tips to pass your grade 12 financial maths or grade 12 mathematics. We know the key formulas. Are A equals P into 1 plus I to the power N. A equals P into 1 plus I times N. And I want to add plus minus here, right? This being compound interest when it's a plus, compound depreciation or reducing balance depreciation when it's a minus. And this being simple interest when it's a plus, and it being straight line depreciation or simple depreciation when it's a minus. You also have this formula here, 1 plus I sub EFF equals 1 plus I NOM, nominal, over M over the frequency of time that the interest is calculated, close, all to the power M. Now, I need to expand on this. This is called effective interest. It's quoted only once a year. Okay, quoted only once a year. All right, hence your answer will end with percent per annum. With this one, the nominal interest, it is quoted more than once a year. Okay, more than once a year. Okay, so it'll end with, when it's quoted in your statement, you will see percent annum compounded blah blah. Okay, compounded blah blah. This is your nominal. This M is the number of times that interest is calculated. Okay, these are the formulas that you need. Now, let's then get to, because you are in grade 12, it's important. I want to talk about the following. Okay, I want to talk about the following. Because you're in grade 12, you then work with annuities. So secondly, I'm not sure with what I explained here. Maybe let me repeat it. When it's a plus, it's an interest. For this one here, when it's a plus, we call it compound interest. When it's a minus, we call it compound depreciation. If not compound depreciation, you will see more often reducing balance depreciation. With this one here, when it's a plus, you will see it called simple interest. If it's a minus, you will see it called simple depreciation. But more commonly, it will be called straight line depreciation. Okay. Now, you then head to annuities. Okay. You then head to annuities. Because you are in grade 12, we head to annuities. But before annuities, let me remind you. No, in fact, let me proceed. Annuities. Okay. Annuities. Now, in annuities, we have two types. We have future value annuity. Okay, we have future value annuity, and then we have present value annuity. Okay, I'm going to say future value F. I'm going to say present value P. Okay. So, these have formulas, and these formulas are future value is capital F equals X into 1, into square bracket, open bracket, 1 plus I close to the power n minus 1 close all over I. Whereas the present value has this capital P equals x, open square bracket, 1 minus, open braces, 1 plus I close to the power negative n all over I. So I want to say this, guys. These x's, we call them installments. I don't want to say monthly installments. So I'm going to say installments. Okay. I'm going to call them installments. Okay. Now these ends, okay, these ends, they are number of installments. I don't want to call them number of years times number of months. I want to call them number of installments. Okay, these are number of installments. I need you guys to be careful. Okay, these are number of installments. Okay, these are number of installments. Of course, you know your I is your interest rate. Okay, so I'm gonna tell you more about this number of installments. Okay, now what do we need these things for? The future value, guys. With the future value, it is one amount of money needed later. Okay, this one is needed later, so you are paying for future use. This one is needed now. An example here is a loan. Okay, an example here is a loan. Okay, remember with a loan, they give you money now and you will pay it at the end of a month. So with this loan, I want to say to you and from you. Okay, to you and from you. Okay, now this one here is an investment. Okay, this one here is an investment. Okay, it's an investment that grows interest. Okay, this one here is an investment that grows interest. Okay, it's an investment that is growing interest. Guys, if you can know this, you are good to go. I will expand more on this point here. Okay, I will expand on this point of the loan to you and from you. Okay, now let's talk about the end. Remember, when you get to annuities, draw proper timelines. They are very key. Okay, draw proper timelines. They are very key. Okay, draw proper timelines. They are very key. Now, to get this in, having drawn proper timelines, you then say n equals t of the last payment minus t of the first payment plus 1. If you do this, trust me, you will always get the correct one. Okay, you will always get the correct one. A tip, however, is what you normally know. Number of years multiplied by number of times that interest is calculated. It is correct, but it depends when you make those installments. For example, I want to show you guys why I say this is key. Imagine T0, T1, T2, T3, T4, T5, T6, and T7. I want to show you something. So you are not making payments at T0, T1, you make payments at T2, T3, T4, T5. Yet you had said, for example, for 7 years, right? Let's say for 7 years. Okay, let's say for 7 years. For example, you say you're investing for 7 years, okay, for 7 years, and interest is I% per annum. right? Interest is I% per annum. Someone would be tempted to use 7, right? Someone would be tempted to use 7. It will be incorrect. Do you see now where I'm saying you shouldn't be saying that n is number of years, but rather number of installments? And how do you get those installments? Check. With this case, it's easy. With this case, it's easy. You can tell that it's 4, right? But when you have large number of installments, what do? You're like, okay, you know what? N is, when was the last one made? The last one here was made at time 5. Right? The last one was made at time 5. The first one was made at time 2. Right? At time 2 plus 1. What is 5 minus? Okay, if you do both maths, you will say 5 plus 1 is 6 minus 2 is 4. Therefore, you made installments. Do you see this? Now you are aware. Now this could be troublesome. Right? Now you are aware that this could be troublesome. So this is then telling you that sometimes these formulas can take a different shape. Okay, they can take a different shape. Hence, it's important that you draw a timeline. Okay, hence it is important that you draw a timeline. So, having said that, I want to say, for example, with the future value, let's say here we were calculating the future value. What would we say? We will basically be saying our n is 4, but we might modify our equation by adding, let me just use a different color here. We might modify our equation here. Maybe let me go to the next page. We might modify and say f equals x into 1 plus I to the n, right, minus 1 close all over I. We might modify this equation by saying Haibo, we have 2 more years or 2 more installments pending. So maybe modifying it, we might say it must be 1 plus I to the power 2. Do you see this? Now, this is the power of a timeline. Okay, this is the power of a timeline for your finance questions. Okay, it's the power of a timeline for your finance questions. So what if payments were made immediately? It does not matter. If payments were made immediately and thereafter at the end of each year, trust me, you cannot get your number of payments by merely saying number of years times how many times interest is quoted. You need to use this n equals last, right? N equals last minus first plus 1. Trust me, it'll always work. Do check our videos on YouTube for more. Okay, so we don't have to say much on future value annuity. I want to talk more on present value annuity. So for the present value annuity, okay, for the present value annuity, I want to expand on this. You can get a loan. So its timeline will be like this: T0, T1, T2, T3, T4, T5. So where you get a loan will be the loan amount, and you need to start paying, let's say, X, 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 right? So here you will be using your normal loan situation. So I need you to note this. The gap must be 1. Okay. Immediately after you taking the loan, you must pay it. So this is at the beginning of the month, at the end of that month. Okay. But it happens now that you had taken out the loan but did not pay here. You start paying at the end of the 3rd month. Right? At the end of the 3rd month. What do you need to do? So here you use that formula. You see, with this one here, use that formula that you had. You said P equals X into 1 minus 1 plus I to the negative N over I, right? But when you get here, it's quite tricky. When you get here, it's quite tricky. What do you do? When you get here, it'll be two parts. It'll be two parts. What will happen? You need to say A equals P into 1 plus I. You need to move this guy here. You need to move this guy here too. Alright? And how many times have you moved him? Twice. Hence you will say this guy here is this. Alright? So you get whatever value you got there. This is the new amount of the load. Okay? This is the new amount of the load. Then afterwards, you use your formula P equals X into 1 plus I, no man, 1 minus 1 plus I to the negative N all over I. Okay? But be careful. You don't, this P here is not, let me call this one here P naught. This P here is not the P naught you had. Maybe let's call this A. Let's call it P1. Okay? So this P here will be the P1. Which one is that? This one here. Remember, the gap should be just one. Immediately after that amount, there must be a repayment. I told you how to calculate the number of payments. What do? You like last minus first plus 1. In this scenario, it's quite easy because it's like 5 years. But with your exam, you will have a lot. Remember, you get them by saying number of years tells you the number of T's you will have. Number of years times the frequency at which the interest is calculated. But the end, number of installments, you must make sure you get it right. Okay? You must make sure that you get it right. So this is one aspect that you need. I believe when it comes to the balance, you guys are not really struggling. Right? When it comes to the balance, you guys are not struggling. But let's look at the balance of the load. So balance of the load, with the balance, you can use this one here. You can say balance equals accumulated amount of the load minus future value of the payments. I will expand on this and say this is the accumulated amount of the loan amount. Okay? Accumulated amount of the loan. Okay? And this one is the future value of the payment. Okay, this is the future value of the payment. Okay, if you can get this, you are good to go. All right, so you know the future value formula. We used it. Accumulated is that one that you've been doing from grade 10. So this one, what do you do when they say, normally, in order for you to use this one, you use the given, in fact, the N here. Let me just say to you, the N here is one given on the question. Is one given on the question. Okay? Is the one given on the question. Okay, the N here is the one given on the question. Okay? The N here, meaning the number of installments, is the one given on the questions. Alternatively, though I would like you to use only one, a balance would be the present value. Okay, one. This is another way of finding the balance. Right, this is another way of finding the balance. Right, this is another way of finding the balance. Now, with this one here, the N is the difference of the expected last installment minus, oh sorry, not minus, and one given on the paper. Okay, and the one given on the question. Okay, so if you are supposed to end on the 230th installment and they say balance owing at 30th, you will be saying your n when you use this formula. Your n will be 230th minus the one that the question is quoting. In this case, let's say, did I say 30? Yes. So it's 230 minus 30. Okay, it'll be that. Remember, the question says calculate the balance owing after the 30th month. Right? Calculate the balance owing after the 30th month. So you say, okay, normally you're supposed to make 230 installments. Then the balance then would be 230 minus 30, as it is. Okay, so it's your choice which one you're choosing. But if you're choosing this one here, the n that you're going to use for both parts will be the one that is given on the question as is. Okay, it will be the one that is given on the question as is. Okay, so this, guys, is how you will master financial mathematics. Okay, now let me explain that part. There's a part where I said the loan that is being used here is when loan is to you and from you. For lack of a better word, when you lend, do you say you lend? Yes, when you lend the bank. So when you get a loan, this is what is happening. The bank gives you money, right, that you want to use today, and you're going to pay at the end of the month. But you can also give a bank a lump sum of money, and at the end of the month, the bank gives you a portion in installments regularly. Now, this is the situation of a loan. So this is you're getting a loan, and this is you are lending the bank. Right. So in that one, you are giving the bank a large amount of money, and then at the end of a year, or at the end of whatever period you have with the bank, they're giving you your money in whatever installments. Maybe they give you monthly, quarterly, or semi-annually. It's your choice. That's what I mean. Okay, so you guys, if you can get this, because the second case I'm mentioning, where you're investing a lot of money into a bank and you're getting monthly payments or quarterly payments or whatever, a lot of students seem to be misinterpreting that. Okay, so if you can get that, you are good to go. Okay, if you can get that, you are good to go. All right. So remember as well, when we get to effective interest is any percentage given that is quoted only once. If you can see that they're asking you percentage per annum, you must know it's effective. But if you hear them say percentage per annum compounded blah blah on this formula, normally it's 7.2, question 7.2, you must know that they want you to find the nominal interest, or 7.1.2. You must know they want you to get nominal. Alright, you must know they give you nominal. If they say percentage per annum compounded blah blah, when you hear compounded blah blah, that's nominal. When you hear just percentage per annum, that's effective. Okay, so remember, it's important that you read your questions, guys. And I also want to highlight this: annuities, these are equal regular payments. Okay, these are equal regular payments. Okay, these are equal regular payments. Okay, there's another situation where it can be misleading. I'm going to give you an example. Okay, there's another situation where it can be misleading. I'll give you an example. Look at this. T0, T1, T2, T3, T4, T5, T6. This is 700s. This is 300s, 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 300s. Right? So, what is the amount that an individual will have at the end? Right? What is the amount of money that an individual will have at the end? You need to notice this. This part here is an annuity. Okay, this part here is an annuity, but this is not an annuity. So this, if this was an investment, you will use F equals X into open bracket, open 1 plus I to the n minus 1 all over I. But with this one, you will use A equals P into 1 plus I to the power n. So remember, here, when you use this one here, this n does not represent number of installments. Right? What does it represent? It represents the number of times the amount is quoted. Right? So if you guys can get that, this is not an annuity, but this is an annuity. So in total, what you will be getting, right? In total, the lump sum will be this A plus this F. Okay, so accumulated amount of this guy here will be, even if you don't use it like this, you can say it is P plus 1 plus I to the n plus this guy here, right? But be careful, these n's are different. So just to play around with it, I want you to see this. This will be 700 into 1 plus I to the power, as you can see, to the power 6, because it's 1, 2, 3, 4, 6. Right? But this one here is the installment. So it'll be 300 into 1 plus I to the power 6 minus 1 plus 1. So it'll be to the power 6 minus 1. Or to make it interesting, I'm going to remove this one here. Let me remove this one here. Right. Imagine if I remove this one here. What's going to happen? It's going to be 1, 2, 3, 4. It's going to be 4. Right? It's going to be 4. Do you guys see that? That is an annuity. So, oh no, but I don't like it when it's 4. I've been using that example for far too long. Okay, yeah, let me work with 5. Alright, so check. It's going to be like that. And this is 5. Do you see it? 5 regularly. But the last payment was not made. And as you can see, this therefore says, ish, this formula must take a different shape, isn't it? It must take a different shape. What is the shape? 1 month was missing. Right? So since 1 month was missing, I then add 1 plus I. These are some of the things that you will come across in your exam. And this is how you must ace your finance. So with that being said, guys, it's a wrap. Go ace it. Bye-bye.